shouldn't even have information. I've had conversations with many leaders that are always appropriate. I think Scott can tell you that. Always appropriate, at the highest level, always appropriate. And anything I do, I fight for this country. I fight so strongly for this country. It's just another political hack job.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff of California, is fighting to get the complaint released to Congress as for in the whistleblower rule.
The Inspector General found these allegations credible, but he had only 14 days to investigate them. So they deserve a thorough investigation. That's what we're intent on doing, and come hell or high water, that's what we're going to do.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi says if the allegations against the president are true, he is stepping on a dangerous minefield for American democracy and his presidency. Acting Homeland Secretary Kevin McAleenan is warning about the domestic terrorism threat emerging from white supremacists. Wharton correspondent Jessica Schneider.
He called white supremacism one of the most potent ideologies driving acts of violence here in the U.S., and really he called it an affront to our entire nation, of course, a nation that strives for unity of its diverse population.
Walmart says it will stop selling electronic cigarettes following a string of illnesses and deaths related to vaping. More than 500 people have been diagnosed with vaping-related breathing problems. An 8th death was reported this week. On every continent on the planet, protesters, mostly young people, are out in force today, calling for more determined efforts to deal with global climate change. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 77, S&P down 8. I'm Mike Moss.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Good Place where truth and integrity meet, where I'll be introducing you every week to thought-provoking and compelling premier educators, whistleblowers, best-selling authors, journalists, activists, celebrities, and today it'll be a radio host. And they all have one thing in common. They are people of truth and integrity, and many are considered modern-day heroes. Today will be different from my typical shows. My guests and I today will more than likely have a little bit of fun. It'll be less formal, and today we will be discussing symbolism, social media, censorship. But before that, let's get to know Bruce and his wife, Jaja. Those are my two guests today, and I just want to say welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey. Hi, Ella. What's up? How are you?
Oh, you guys are up. So before we get into our topics, let's, tell us a little bit about your history. We'll start with you, Bruce. How on earth did you end up in this field of broadcasting?
Well, I've been in this type of broadcasting probably for about 10 years now. I like to call myself a professional conspiracy theorist now, since it's been 10 years,
Yeah.
But, seriously, I believe that today, is perhaps one of the most dangerous times to be a conspiracy theorist. But I just want to say hello to your Good Place audience and your TFR audience. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us on.
And generally, also besides being a radio personality, you're an investigative journalist and talk show host. And by the way, your show is the Bruce Montalvo Show. And where can people catch that?
Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com/the Bruce Montalvo Show. And also TalkStreamLive.com. Just like you guys, TFR is on TalkStream Live. So are we, worldwide. TalkStreamLive.com. Get the app.
When?
Yeah, Mondays, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and Fridays, 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
And you were first noticed by InfoWars in 2012, is that correct?
That's right. I signed up for one of their contests, one of the reporter contests. I sent in some submissions, and they ended up liking one of my entries that I did on 9/11 symbolism at the New York casino in Las Vegas. The towers were never included in the casino's overall design, so they they omitted them. So that's pretty strange because that casino has been there since like '96. So I mean, was there something going on? Did they know something that we didn't?
And then on the other hand, you have St. John the Divine. They're putting the...
Oh, yeah, that's from the 1800s in New York, the old St. John the Divine Church. They have the Twin Towers going down up in smoke. As you know, it's the 18-year anniversary of 9/11. So, I mean, those are just a couple of tidbits that we've been investigating since, for 10 years now. I started off with the 9/11 Truth Movement out in L.A. with We Are Change L.A., marching in front of places like CNN for 9/11 Truth out there, and yeah, but that's how I got into it. You know, I contacted InfoWars. They put out a piece back then in 2012, an article on symbolism and 9/11, and I just decided to do my show from there on, independently.
And you also have a book on symbolism.
That's right. It's coming out by the end of this year. It's The Language of Symbolism. My good friend Jordan Maxwell, the legend on symbolism, helped a little bit with it, a lot. He blessed the book, and a lot of people just take from that man and they don't give back, and I decided to team up with him, like the dynamic duo of symbolism. Yeah, because he's a legend, and his stuff needs to be looked at. We go over it in my book in detail. I really I try to put out a banger out there. 100 pages should be easy to read, but it's it's easy. It's just like we spoke about the swastika. It's ancient Hindu symbolism, but you see it everywhere. You see it at the hidden facade of the swastika and at the Chase Bank, for instance. I bet you never noticed it was there, right?
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I'd like to go in specifics to the symbols and what they mean and some of the history, but I wanted to hear a little bit about you, Jaja, and then we'll kind of jump into symbols.
Hey, well,
she's a rapper.
Well, I know she's a rapper. Fascinating.
I'm an all-around artist. I guess I'm a multimedia artist because I got into rap a little bit later than I was more known at first for my art, my photography, and but even before that, I was doing painting. So, everything it's weird how I'm where I am, but I'm definitely multimedia, and even today we're making jewelry. So, and I'm still working on I'm gonna eventually release this last album. Not my last album, but the one the latest album, that I worked hard on. And I released 3 singles already from it. One is Get Your Guns Up, and Break the Door Down. Oh, and there's another. Anyway, so I'll just release some more of them. I have Fake Jewels coming out soon, and I just we just had a couple of weird setbacks with moves and jumping across the country. It's like really hard to get relocated.
From Brooklyn to Arizona.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like.
And with jewelry as well. Speaking of symbols, people use symbols all the time with jewelry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
the ham's a hand.
Everything.
The eye and the hand, the palm of the hand. The cross, right?
Everything.
And so, okay, let's jump into it. So, symbols have power and meaning, always have since the beginning of mankind. I think we can all agree with that. And what's was beautiful and perfect can easily turn into something horrifying. And we're going to talk about some of these symbols. And even before the written language, we had symbols. And when you really think about it, letters are actually a symbol for them within themselves. And many of the symbols, as we mentioned, have been bastardized over time. And an example being the swastika.
Absolutely.
And again, what started as beautiful and perfect can easily turn into something horrifying because that is really a horrific symbol. And so we can start with the swastika, but the other one I was interested in talking about was the whole, the devil symbol with the hands where you're holding up the index and the pinky finger in a gesture. And I know people call them the devil horns. But if you've been in Texas, and I grew up there for a good portion of my life, you have the University of Texas, the beloved
Hook 'em horns. Hook 'em horns.
Exactly. And so, that really, it's not always been a demonic thing, apparently, I guess. And who actually, in my research, I came across the person who actually kind of gave it a new connotation. It's not even that long ago. Do you know who it is?
Who's that?
The Pope.
Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, man. Dio.
Yeah. And so
Holy Diver.
Ronnie James Dio from the band Dio. And I guess he, you'd go to those.
Rest in
I
peace.
didn't go to those concerts, but I'd heard it on the radio, and he used that at his concerts. And basically, what was said in a couple of articles that I read is that he learned the sign from his grandmother, who taught him it, and it was supposedly a magical sign to ward off the evil eye. Because the evil eye was supposed to imply you were going to have bad luck. And so it's interesting that that's relatively recent, maybe the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Well, you see, it comes from witchcraft, first of all, Wicca. And you see Spider-Man doing it all the time when he spins his web, right? You see him do the 666 sign or the devil's hand sign. They do it at rock concerts, like you said. But yeah, it originates from the Wiccan religion.
No,
or the Druid way before
Wiccan
that.
itself is a kind of a later pagan religion, but pagan.
So we'll
Paganism,
say
yeah,
witchcraft.
pagan.
We'll just say
witchcraft.
That's what I was going for.
That's like the neo kind of witchcraft kind of name for things. But it's really weird how this. But at the same time, Bruce was talking to me the other day about all these cars. Like every single car has a symbol, and they're all the same symbol. It's all the devil sign.
Or Saturnian symbol.
What about the Dodge symbol? That's creepy.
That's
like
the
devil.
There's the Baphomet. It also there's there's a hidden anagram in the Dodge symbol, as it's actually the uterus of a woman, the female reproductive organ. If you see it, that's what it is. It's hidden. There's a lot of hidden symbolism in places they're in front of you every day. I mean, even religious iconography, the cars, automotive industry. I mean, they all have Mitsubishi, for instance, is the Triqueta. Since we're on the Wiccan and witchcraft, you have the Trinity knot.
And just because you think that throwing
seeing
the
it
hook'em
everywhere.
horns is not demonic doesn't mean that the masters behind the scenes didn't conceptualize that and kind of proliferate.
Unconscious.
Yeah.
They do it to control the collective unconscious of the individual. That's what all these symbols do. And then you have the gestalt of the colors and the symbols that, for instance, red and yellow will make you want to feel rushed, or you're hungry. And many food, big food corporations, they use the red and yellow, like In-N-Out and McDonald's and you name it.
Yeah. Well, they're always.
And even if we're talking about commercial products, I was reading about the Arm & Hammer, and we all know this one, right?
That's Freemasonic.
Yeah, it's the symbol that they use for household products like laundry and bleach and baking soda, and it actually is like a Nazi racist symbol, at least at this day and age.
And you need to research who Arm & Hammer really is, who Arm & Hammer really was, and you'll see it's got everything to do with communism, Marxism, Leninism, and it's just an incredible, fascinating story.
Right. But it's really strange is that people actually liked it. I mean, like laborers adored it so much that they attempted to create a new political system, like you said, and it kind of breaks down to communism again, because to fight back against the capitalistic society they felt was using it and exploiting it. And the laborers used the Arm & Hammer sign for the organization, which was the Socialist Party, of course.
That's right.
Of course.
And today they're screaming that they hate Nazis, and they hate Nazis, these millennials, right, or Generation Z, but the Nazis were socialists too.
Yeah, they were, but they also killed 11 million people.
Oh,
so
they kept perfect records, and they invented UFOs. Since today's, I don't want to get into aliens. I know
Nazis. We could go on for hours.
But we're talking about the swastika. The swastika again. It's it's evil. It's been bastardized, but really, it just represents the Hindu. They believe the constellation, the Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. It's the North Star.
I took some information.
Polaris.
Yeah. So one of the things I found, because the swastika, when most people think of that, they just feel the darkness and what that means.
Well, the Nazis left.
The
Nazis left a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
Yeah, so basically, in my opinion, it's the closest thing we have to an actual symbol of the devil, and it's the thing that people who advocate mass genocide wear, and it to me that is steeped in evil. One writer put this; it was really funny. He put, "It's basically steeped in evil, like a fine brewed tea made of Satan's pee." I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it.
Well, if the seasons are Satan's pee, the four seasons, and the earth, water, fire, and air, and also what is it? It's also the symbol of the flat earth. If all the ancients believe that,
the black sun.
The black sun symbol,
which is the polar opposite of Polaris. If as above, so below.
That's
so
right.
that's supposed to be the dark side of, the earth.
Oh, it's
and
just
the
riddled with this
underside,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
that's how the Nazis kind of co-opted it, because they wanted to own all four corners of the poles of the earth.
Of the earth, yeah.
So and then they know now there is secret knowledge. I don't know anything. I don't know what. I've never been inside a Garth. I don't know if it exists, but I do know there is something that's centrifugal, like that's a vortex.
Yeah, the polar vortex, and that's what I think deep down this whole green thing they're talking about has to do with, and their whole climate thing. It just has to do with a changing of the polar vortex, which I'm sure the Nazis were well aware of. The Antarctic and all their expeditions, Operation High Jump, and all that stuff.
Their technology
Yes.
was extremely advanced. This is like in the
Oh, yeah.
1940s, and it's just some of that is being used. DARPA uses some of that information, and just some of their torture techniques and the COINTELPRO that they created. I mean, it's just, yeah.
All the intelligence agencies in the United States are basically founded by Nazi Operation Paperclip Nazis. That the old OS founded the CIA, for instance. I mean, there's dark roots in there's many of these conspiracies of there's dark roots.
One of the reasons why they won is because they did some kind of a mapping. They went and they got rid of a lot of maps. They did something with maps, and they have there's a lot of hidden maps. That's why they went and raided a lot of places. They burnt map places, a lot of books, but a lot of them were maps. I really kind of can see this.
That must be in the Vatican archives.
No.
A lot of
they
that
show
stuff.
up a little bit, and I believe that's why Hitler won. Excuse me.
Right.
Is because they had access to the real maps of the United States and Antarctica. That's why there's Nazi bases over there. They had all the maps. They kept everybody stupid. They've been keeping us in a little bubble, dumb, like believing certain things. That the Earth, all science is combobulated because of them, and
just break down the word science. It means dividing of knowledge. Who's dividing the knowledge? If you study the etymology of the word science, it's right there. I mean, you just have to be a truth seeker and go out and try to find the truth, and try to find that good place inside of you that is all knowing. It's all all the answers are out there. It's just up to you to go out there and find them.
Yeah, I say it's in the super subconscious. I think that people are connected, and like there's your consciousness, your subconscious, and then there's I call it the super subconscious, and I think it's referred to that in many of the books.
Yes.
Like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of which ones. A lot of books based on psychology and myths, and myths to live by, and so.
You just got to remove the spray paint from your third eye. That's all.
That's right. And also, like, I thought it was such an important thing to read, and it basically says that we're all connected. How like schools of fish, they somehow just sense everything together, and I think there is something like that connects us all, and also that there's so much information in the DNA. This kind of takes me down my woohoo, the things that I love to talk about. The DNA has coding, and all the information from all our ancestors is coded in my brother is a genetic research scientist, so I think that in there, but I take it a step further. This is just my own, after everything I've read and understand, at least from my brother and my own research, is that we hold almost every memory that all our ancestors have, and it's all written in our DNA. And that in the base of the brain, well, we know it's the R complex, the reptilian brain, but there's not just the primitive stuff going on there. I think there's just this connect. Maybe it's not the base. There's this connect, like you said, more like the third eye.
The top of it's more like in the crown chakra, I would think. Kind of more like
your temple.
To the
That's why they call your head by your temple, by your temple.
That's interesting.
It hides your third eye, your pineal gland.
Yeah, the God kind of shines his light through the top of your head, and maybe the Jewish people and they
that's why they wear the yarmulke as well. Well, that also has to do with Saturnian, old sun worship influences.
Yeah, and that third eye thing is extremely important. And as we know, as we can see, it's in many cultures, and it's involved with Hinduism, like you said, and it's just something you see, that symbol, whenever you're studying, even metaphysics, spirituality, many of the religions, theosophy, in theology, if you study this, you will find that out. And so when you take your finger and you put it there in that third eye, right behind there, I hope I'm right about this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like supposedly that's where the consciousness enters into a baby, and like that's where the pineal gland, I guess people say, that is where consciousness first sits.
Yes.
That was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, there was that movie OA, I think, and this guy
Netflix,
on Netflix is a series, and he was going into people's brains.
He was kidnapping them first.
Kidnapping them and then stealing there was like
flower.
A flower inside from within the ear. Between the ear, he'd have to go in there with like this micro tweezer.
It looked like he was doing some type of ancient Egyptian autopsy or something.
Yeah, you know what? I did watch that, and I was very sad it didn't renew. I just thought it was compelling. But he was researching. He was a dark person. He was just a dark scientist who was so interested in death and the consciousness, and he would kill them. Yeah, he would kill them because he said, and this is just a movie, but we might find some truth if we research this further, because some movies have, there's a lot of interesting information that is factual.
Well, that's where the predictive programming.
Yeah. And so he was obsessed with, like, when people died, there was a whoosh. Like he said, he always heard the whoosh, and he was just wanted to find that place where they could all connect, and like they were prisoners basically of his consciousness. Anyways, it gets complicated, right?
So complicated.
You'll find
how he was able to grow something then in water.
You'll find so much predictive programming today in Netflix, and you'll see so much symbolism, like in the Dark series, for instance. They use that Trinity knot, the Wiccan.
The Celtic.
Yeah, the Celtic. Yes, Celtic. Yeah. Druid Celtic. Yes.
Yeah, I know, it's like Celtic. I mean, I don't know.
But they use it. They use it now in modern times. But yes, you see it everywhere. It's just abundant. The symbolism and the dark symbolism and the predictive programming. I mean, that guy in OA, he's clearly trying to remove the pineal gland. You go to things like movies like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, they talk about removing the pineal gland and drinking the adrenochrome and
I was pretty young when that
goes
movie came
back
out.
to Aztec.
That was in the 90s, right? Early 90s or something.
That's right, with Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro.
Wow. Yeah, I need to go back and check that out, because even I might have seen it when I was young. I actually saw part of it. It was on a video. Remember those old-fashioned tapes?
Yeah, the VHS.
Yeah, and I because I didn't have enough knowledge, and I was so young. I didn't see that. You can go back and see a movie.
I hear you.
As you're older and wiser, and you catch all that. So I have to go back and check that out. Okay, so we were talking about the swastika. So now let's move to something that has, in this day and age, the complete opposite meaning. The cross. Let's talk about the cross a little bit, because we know it's one of the most famous symbols in the world, and it's supposed to be a sign of Christ's death, redemption, and Christianity in general. And what do you want to say about that symbol?
What I want to say,
Yeah.
excuse me, because it's Bruce's line.
Oh, okay. Well, first it goes back to the Egyptian, the Ankh.
I thought so. It wasn't in my research articles, but I said, you know what? It reminds me of the Egyptian Ankh, which means eternal life, I think.
Yeah, but I grew up Catholic, and the Catholics, they got a way of putting on the crucifix that's just so morbid, and I'm Sephardic Jew, and I see Jesus up there. First, they really dose up his abs real nice, they make him look real buff and stuff, like he's Sylvester Stallone or something. But they beat him up, they got him up there bleeding, and I don't feel so spiritual seeing a dead man hovering above me. It kind of scares the crap out of me. I'm sorry.
With that said, though, he was on a cross.
Yeah,
that's true. So he did die on the cross.
Yes, the biblical mythology, yes, but it could also, there's also another side to it that has everything to do with sun worship, and you'll see it goes, they call him the sun walks on water. You see the sun goes up every morning, it walks on water. So there's a lot of
some crosses.
Every ancient a lot of ancient gods like Attis, a lot of mythology, they all have the same Horus, for instance.
And some crosses have like a circle, like it looks kind of like an ankh, but
storyline. They have the same storyline.
That's the Celtic cross.
That's a Celtic cross. Okay.
Yeah, and I know that, but I want to talk a little bit about the Celtics. I find them fascinating, in Ireland and West London.
And what about the Tartans?
I was obsessed with the history of London and England at one point.
That's funny you say that. London, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're talking about symbolism. In the British flag, you see the double cross, and that in its meaning, the Luciferians use it. But it's there. There's a lot, and in my book, there's a whole chapter on flags and some hidden symbolism in flags.
Yeah, and I pulled an article actually, the Celtic cross, and it says it was a symbol of the neo-Nazism everywhere, supposedly, but it started out as a symbol of the sun, and the sun is pretty awesome. We all know it. It keeps us warm and grows our fruits and veggies, and keeps us, and we'd pretty much be a lifeless rock without it.
That's right.
But in ancient times, it was seen, more powerfully as a symbol of life and God. And of course, I don't know when the Nazis took it, but somehow it now is a symbol of Nazism.
The 1920s.
Yeah, I think they were preparing for it. They did a pre-Nazi Germany. I think they were really starting to use that.
The Native Americans use it as well.
And we have some jewelry.
The earth,
I have some jewelry because we repurpose antiques. So occasionally there's this one motif, and I only found it in really one of them. That's a distinct swastika, and I know it's got to be pre-1920. We've sold it many times over when we find it.
But you see the swastika in old Hebrew temples. You see them in Israel.
Yeah,
you see it.
I heard that too.
You see it in India. You see it all over the world. I mean, you see it goes back to Zoroastrianism. You see it everywhere. It's a ancient symbol of the sun also.
It almost seems like a shield to me, but I didn't see anything that said that. But I guess it was used in the flag.
Oh, the shield is a very symbolic, very well used symbol. I mean, chevron. They use a shield. It means obviously means protection. So I mean, the cult sees it as protection. That's why they use the shield. A lot of corporations have shields.
But the Nazis, they own it.
We'll be right back after these station messages, so hold on tight.
Closed eyes till the sun come down. I'll keep on waiting, losing. Woo-hoo-hoo. Now what if I did the same to you? But you would be less. Ooh-hoo-hoo.
Oh no.
From the dawn of man, we have turned to nature to help attain balance within ourselves. But somewhere, we lost our way. Western culture is once again remembering the healing benefits of CBD, the non-psychoactive component of the hemp plant. That's why more and more people who use CBD report relief from inflammation and chronic pain, balanced blood sugar and cardiovascular system, relief from muscle tensions, tremors, migraines, headaches, anxiety, depression, and the list goes on. The big question is, where do you get it? IOLife is a 99% pure CBD oil made with all organic ingredients, and it's available to TFR listeners worldwide. If you use coupon code TFR at checkout, you'll get $5 towards your order. Head on over to iolife.com now. That's AYA life.com.
Hey folks, guess what the #1 phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea! We love this tea! Time after time, week after week, we love this tea! Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
Keep on waiting. I won't close eyes till the sun come down. I keep on waiting. You must have lost my number, answer me now. I'm just waiting. I'ma get through to you somehow. See, waiting's got me paying. It's in the mess, baby, I need the mess. Now what if I did the same to you?
Well, welcome back, everybody. And I have with me, in case you're joining us late, Bruce Montalvo. He's a radio personality, and his lovely wife, Jaja. And we are discussing symbolism right now. And before the break, I believe we were talking about the chevron symbol and shields, symbols that were symbolic for shields against evil or in any other various capacities. So why don't we pick off where we left off?
Hello, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. I was saying that, the thing about the swastika in particular, even though it might have had a small symbol that for each tribe, of ancient cultures, what happened was that when the Nazis took over, they took over everything. So they took over all. So that symbol is really just, for me, the symbol of the polar vortex. It's the black sun. It's like the center of when you go up to the pole, the North Pole, supposedly.
It was also considered a good luck symbol at one point. Pilots.
I saw that. I read that. Like luck, it was about. Exactly. It was not only just good luck, it was like symbolic of success and
Yes.
harvest, and so it's just
Well,
interesting.
harvest. I'll tell you why it was harvest and why it was good luck, because harvest, because they could tell from the stars from Polaris. You see, everything was, the way the stars, and they could tell the seasons through the astrolabe, through the sun, through the stars, right? So everything was they could tell the directions on sea. Anywhere, if you know where Polaris is. So, but a lot of that information has been washed out of our brain. That's why when you go to walk with a compass, and it only goes one way, it just goes north, and you're like, and then when you go, and then they're not allowed to go up to the North Pole with a compass. It does weird stuff, and then I'm telling you, if you look up flat Earth and compass, you will understand things and how the order has twisted us and indoctrinated us since we were a really young child.
And all that's hidden in the swastika's meaning, believe it or not.
It is. It really is.
Because
they're controlling everything. They're controlling your knowledge. They're controlling. That's why also it is dark, but it also has a reflective meaning. I mean, it was good. It's good. It was always good on a vernacular, tribal level for certain things. We used it for mapping, but when the Nazis took it over, they're like, no, we own it. You know what I'm saying? We own all four corners and then some. So, and then you start.
And then, to answer your question about the shield, the shield is used, as a protection. You see, it's also a vector. It could be the vector symbol. You see, it's the same type of military insignia that a lot of high-ranking military wear, or NASA. They also have that logo.
My father worked with a company named Vector, and he was an electronic engineer, and he was a subcontracted through NASA. So that's really interesting, because I'm like, Vector.
Absolutely.
But because he was an electronic engineer, I thought it was related to electricity in some way.
No, it's the vector symbol. Again, it's Saturnian in nature, and there's a secret society of the Brotherhood of Saturni, or the Fraternity of Saturn, and a lot of them are gotta be stockholders in these businesses, because their symbols are absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, like the head of the heads of the heads. They're all like the 360-degree Masons, those guys.
Yeah.
Then everybody else is like a third degree,
Club 33 at Disneyland. They're running everything. They're running everything, Ella.
Yeah, I've heard, and I actually talked to someone. He told me he was part of it. He claimed to be, and he was a lawyer out of New York, and he was blackballed from it, but he was very frightened, and he told me that basically they sat around and they'd get together, and it was people from all over the world, surprisingly all different ethnicities. He said it wasn't just not all white, and they basically controlled everything. Everything.
Well, that's how they made it sound more appealing.
We have all the politicians, and then everything's being done in New York City. It's some meeting with these powerful men.
That's how they made it sound more appealing, by calling it New World Order. They couldn't just call it what it used to be, which is the old Anglo World Order out of London, right? That doesn't sound too inclusive to everybody. It's not diverse.
They're Middle Eastern, according to him.
New World Order sounds pretty good for everybody.
Top of the boule. How do you think Obama got there? And you got guys like Jay-Z, and Jay-Z sings about that all the time. He's been letting it go.
They're telling the masses that they're in secret societies. It's gone from covert to overt.
Yeah.
It clearly has. In the last 20 years, there's been an explosion of this. It's become mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. But the mainstream doesn't.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Jay-Z can have all those symbols on the shirt, and they'll all wear it, but they don't know what they mean, or they don't know. They think they're in the club, cool. And they think they're in the club. They think they're Illuminati.
No, they're just puppets.
They don't even know. They're
clueless puppets. That's
what
amazing.
They are.
Right. And the people that are part of that, according to this gentleman, I'll just call him Ray, he said they're genius. These are some bright minds. And it's, the group that's kind of controlling everything.
Ray knows it all.
I wanted to go back. We were talking about shields. And I was just thinking, I was trying to remember what it was. I'm like, the pentagram, of course.
Yes.
And I think most people, the first time they ever saw it, must have been like in a movie, and it might have been drawn in blood. And so to me, when I saw a pentagram, I was frightened of it because I was living in a Bible Belt too, so I'm sure that shaped some of my thinking around it.
Right.
And
Sure.
well, it's definitely not a Christian symbol now, but it's kind of a positive symbol, and it was used by witches, which Christians don't, they think that's evil too, all over to represent spirituality and triumph over the world. Like that top point supposed to be triumph over the world. And before that, it was used as a positive thing by the Christians. And I guess it was like a shield to somehow, the shield was a way, it was used as a shield to protect themselves from evil spirits and evil and things like that.
Well,
So
as
it was supposed to ward off evil.
excuse me, as an artist, when you look at the Leonardo da Vinci drawings, you could see the division of the proportion according for every man will be within the circumference of a circle when you use
That's right.
the dynamics.
It's the body.
It is a pentagram of man. Yes,
It's actually the symbol of the body of man.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
a
absolutely
mathematical symbol
on point.
of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so
like Michelangelo.
right,
Upside down.
that's what I meant.
Okay,
Michelangelo.
got it.
Right, so when you look, the artist will show you as with anatomy. When you could look at it, it's almost just what you see is what you get. It's just proportion because I'm proportioned to myself. Bruce is proportioned to himself. And everything will line up to basically that pentagram at a certain point. Like when you put your.
The pentagram is basically the symbol of man.
I think so. I think that's
and
where
you see it hidden in the health iconography of the atlas that's moving his arms of the body. You see it. He looks it's hidden symbolism. But you see the pentagram in the medical field. That's what it is.
Well, the horror movies sure like it. They use
they love
they
it.
use
Yeah.
it to scare the bejesus out of people.
Because man is our own.
And if you stand within the folklore is if you stand within a pentagram, is you have the pentacle and the pentagram. So if you stand within the pentacle, I believe that's a pentacle has the circle around it, then you are protecting yourself from the demons
Evil.
or evil spirits around you. It actually
Are you
creates
supposed to put salt on it? I remember seeing.
yeah,
that
the salt is used in sacrifices. It's symbolic to the occult, but it's supposed to create like your own spiritual firmament around you.
Yeah, that's interesting. So on that note, let's talk about Christmas trees.
Hey.
Something a little more lighter.
Okay, can I say something because I'm Jewish? Okay.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Star of David, right?
Yeah.
You want to go there?
No, I want to say something about Christmas trees. Okay.
Okay.
I love the lights, and I love when people decorate their own tree outside.
That goes back to Roman
But
times.
it makes me
Nero.
so sad. I wish they get rid of the Christmas tree. I really do. I mean, the earth it takes so many years to grow a tree. How they just dumping it and they don't care. And people, they talk about recycling and they just throw their Christmas tree right on the floor. On the outside of the garbage. It makes me. I'm sorry, but it's one of those things that it's so glorified and it makes me nuts, and it just like
I know a lot of history of the Scandinavian. My family's Swedish, and boy, they talk about Christmas. They love Christmas, and they've taught me so much about Christmas. And and because you have to remember something in Sweden in the middle of winter, and you have to remember there was no electricity, there was no heaters, there was no light. It's just black, And Sweden is dark in the winter. So are those Scandinavian
all
countries.
the best black metal bands come from Sweden.
Highest suicide in the world.
German, I thought.
No, Sweden.
Yeah, Cradle of
That's
Filth.
a new trend. Yeah, it used to be very light and poppy and kind of disco-y. You think of ABBA and that kind of Euro. That Euro thing.
They were MK Ultra to me. It seemed like they were too. They looked mind controlled.
No, I'm not talking about like people that need it for a reason. It
was to cheer them up. I mean, I think it was actually started in Germany. I want to say the 17th century, and I'm sure I wrote it down on my notes somewhere. It was like in Germany, and and it was supposed to just be like a magical tree. But let me read here. I pulled this note too.
And then you're going to use the wood for firewood anyway. It doesn't really matter.
It represents the tree of life.
Okay,
also,
but
it's a hidden symbol,
but in
yes.
New York City, you'll see people actually just dump the trees.
Mount Meru.
You don't understand. They just dump. They buy it. They put it up for.
They should actually do plastic trees. Number one, they're extreme fire hazard. Even though, one of the things in one of the articles I read that was talking about Christmas trees, they signify. Supposedly, it's in some of the things I read that it's like. It's the evergreen, and it's always green, and it lasts forever. So it had a symbol of just continuation of life, I guess, to some degree. And so it's really sad, though. I think maybe we should ban them just because it's cute. My husband does insurance, and he's known some houses to go up in smoke very quickly.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and not just ban them. And not just for
if
that.
you don't like something, you can't just ban it.
What about?
It's kind of un-American,
it's not that, but it's not. But you're taking down.
No, I'm not
trees.
saying ban it, but it'd be nice. They have wonderful artificial ones.
Yeah,
now.
they do, and they last forever.
They do.
And then you don't have to take down.
You have choice. In this
You
country,
have a choice, and believe me, I love a good Christmas tree because I love the smell.
Yeah,
but
right.
I'm here in Oregon, and we got trees everywhere.
Oh,
and I'll
yeah.
tell you the damage that's going on with trees. It's not Christmas trees. It's called Amazon. Those Amazon boxes. Oh my goodness, it's just crazy how much
And
paper
Christmas is riddled with occult symbology. I mean, it's,
it is.
It's basically you had the Saturnalia in Rome. That's was a Christmas-like pre-Christmas, and the lights. Like I said, they came in Roman times. In the times of Nero, they would put the Romans would put lights everywhere. We took that from Rome.
Yeah, but they also said
All roads lead to Rome.
most books will say that, and this was even taught in school, but school's not always right. It's just information that we're told is correct. The Christmas tree specifically was in the 17th century. That was the right century. Then it was a German invention, and the Santa Claus was based on Father Winter.
That's right.
Someone said that. The Christmas Father, but I've read a lot of books on paganism and different.
It's Father
and I know
Cronus.
Father Winter, and it's supposedly Santa Claus is a direct descendant of Father Christmas in England, which again is tied into paganism based on the pagan ideas about spirits who traveled in the sky in midwinter. And even in Sweden, they said that they would have not Santa Claus, when this all started, but it was a tree, and there's a little guy called Yule Tomten. He's a little magical fairy. He'd come in, but he was a tiny, skinny guy. He wasn't this big American Santa that you think of.
It was
and
like a
he
dwarf,
would give little presents.
right?
Yeah.
All right, could I say something now? Of course. Okay, so really, I heard this real story. A lot of information is kept from us, and I believe this story because Eden is supposedly right there by the North Pole, which is right by those, Sweden and Norway. Now, if you break down the word Sweden, it means southwest of Eden, okay? And northwest was northwest of Eden, and everything was based on the center vortex, which is right up there by the polar axis, and that's supposedly where life came from. And also, if you go to the top areas and you look on a map and you really look at a flat earth map, up by the top areas, you'll see in Russia there's a place called in Karelia where you'll find the best shungite in the world, which has the highest C60, which is great for your body, the carbon 60. What you'll find.
So shungite, is that a rock? Or?
Yeah, it's a rock.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it comes from Karelia, but you'll also find these churches that are called Santa Claus and all these really amazing phantasmagorical fantasy kind of churches that are on its own island and really based on Father Time and North and North
based off
Nordic
of Cronus, the child eater. You see him eating
I thought
children.
Cronus was the timekeeper.
He's that as well. He's the Grim Reaper.
And he's got that lovely other
He comes
flag.
in many forms. He's Father Time is of course the Grim Reaper, and you see Thor, and then Satan is Santa in an anagram. You see that there. And
wow.
if you don't believe that, Krampus will come out and eat you. How about that?
I've seen that movie, a trailer of it some point in
Well,
time.
that goes back to old German folklore, the anti-clause. I mean,
So the whole thing
riddled
about
with
the
this.
axis is moving. It starts, if you were to look at the flat Earth map up by Polaris, that's where the center is right where the Arctic countries are, and that's where they say where life was, or this realm of that's why they have newfound land. Newfoundland
That's
is right up there, and they say that the entrance to is it right by in Greenland.
And that is probably why Donald Trump and the
He's trying to
American
buy-
government has so much interest in Greenland right now. Greenland.
Yeah, because and in fact, if life is really being created and funneled out through the central force, the center part, then there is some movement in the actual physical
Again,
land.
why is it called Greenland? Because the Aurora Borealis. You see the green. In Greenland, that's from the green from the
It's
Aurora
not a great
Borealis.
place. I flew over.
Well,
it.
no, I think that was, I heard it was a joke. Like, they didn't want people coming to Iceland, so they wanted to trick people, so that they called the really icy place, they called that Greenland. So people, and they called them the nice one, which should be.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
I was in
Iceland, so-
Iceland. I know that story. Yeah, they did that to the fit.
Yeah, you bought an itchy sweater there. A very itchy sweater.
Yeah,
that'd be a really neat place to go to. Is Iceland? It's like the punk rock version of Sweden, I guess. There's a lot of Swedes. It's a mixture of people, and it's really a fascinating place. It's very
it's so little.
quirky and fascinating.
It's so cold. Don't ever go there in the winter. You will have to wear 4 sweaters. You've never felt cold.
And it'll go scratchy too. Huh?
It's like Siberia. It's like so. It's colder than that because it's like an island. It probably Siberia is less cold because the winds, And you see in Icelandic people the lines, the wrinkles on their face. They're like wind-blown fishermen, but like real deep. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's funny. I noticed that with fishermen, they do have that wind-blown look and the wrinkles actually go outwards because they're in the sea. Like they go directly straight towards the ears. It's interesting. I know that as well. So, what about the anonymous mask? That had an interesting history as well.
Right, the Guy Fawkes, right?
Yeah. And I guess he had tried to go in. His original idea was to go in to the king, to blow up the king in Parliament in the UK, and he failed. And then I guess once a year,
by design, maybe.
What do you think? Didn't they have a celebration for his failure? Or something
Right.
like
By
that?
design.
Oh, he was the original COINTELPRO.
Yeah, but isn't the face Ted Turner's face?
He looks just like Ted, doesn't he? WCW. That's my Ted
Yeah,
Turner
I don't know
impersonation.
I haven't seen a picture of Ted Turner in a long time, but we know he's very powerful.
Yeah, his wife Jane Fonda looks great though. I
oh
never
my gosh,
thought
she
I'd
looks
say
amazing.
that. How does she
80
stay in
years old.
shape, that lady? She's still doing those aerobics videos?
I don't know. I know she makes. Do you know she makes vibrators?
Oh,
I know,
we
we're
saw that.
watching.
We love that show.
It's like
hilarious.
Jane Fonda's like #my 80. Like I want to be like her and look like her when I'm 80. Won't happen, but she is one fit, gorgeous woman.
Is that a vibrator or an eggplant?
I don't know
I'm sorry, what is that?
I don't know
damn
what
thing?
person needs to put that thing in them, but
Dear God, man.
I've never had an X-rated or R-rated show, but we're kind of going that way.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Jane Fonda. It's just a fact.
yeah, it's not
Netflix.
Netflix.
Hey, we don't work for them because I don't like where their management is, Obama or whatever. He's in trouble.
Yeah. And so, anyways, to get back to this, the anonymous mask. So, I guess Alan Moore wrote V for Vendetta, and after that, of course, was a movie adaptation. And the mask slowly became to resemble what is in the book, a symbol of anonymity. And so, it went kind of from a symbol of how great it was that the Guy Fawkes failed in his revolution to a symbol of resistance and revolution. So, it also turned.
I don't know how much revolution. A lot of the guys that wear that mask today are living in their mama's basement drinking her milk. So I mean,
Or work for the government.
or they work
Nobody's
for the
got
man.
time for that. You got to pay your rent.
Well, they've been
Pay your bills.
exposed. Unfortunately, and some anon has been exposed to having ties to government, like CIA agencies and stuff like that. Like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the COINTELPRO or the the intel units, they're out there designed to spy on the public. That's why I believe today, I said earlier, it was perhaps one of the most dangerous times today is to be a conspiracy theorist. because the term conspiracy theorist is being grossly overused. You hear everybody saying it every day, every minute on CNN. I mean, the mainstream media uses it as a way to discredit critical thinkers or anyone that dares question their scripted narratives.
Yeah, there's a theory, no pun intended, that the CIA created that so it would have a negative connotation.
They did. And William Colby, I believe in one of Dave McGowan, the late Dave McGowan's books, he stated that everybody in the CIA, anybody in Hollywood is owned by the CIA. They got a handler or somebody in their ear telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Like subconsciously?
No, like a little earbud. Like, hey, you're gonna do this and this. Oh, okay, sir. Thank you.
For real. I know some people like that. You know, I mean, I know some I've met a lot of people because I'm an artist. You know, and I've had friends that I think are very high up there. I know are very high up, and they have handlers, and I know who they are, and now I know why they got the route that they did and who they were related to. So it's very complicated, and there still is a legal.
But yeah, the CIA did create the term to discredit critical thinkers or anyone that wants to question anything. It was many things that are nefarious. You know, they have a lot to gain. You know, with these scripted narratives that are made by nefarious people and. They're just unconstitutional power grabs in the end. A lot of these scripted things you see in the news, and with the Smith-Mundt Act being revoked, the news is able to outwardly lie to you to your face about anything. They could make up anything. And then after that, they'll show you a squirrel on jet skis.
That's right.
Yeah, it is absurd. Mainstream media is...
it's their modus operandi.
It's all owned, and so
that's why
six
corporations are owned. 6 corporations own all the media. Viacom, the this, the that. They own it all.
Amazon. I mean, these are like corporations that have something to gain from controlling the media.
Yes.
You know, they could be like, oh, they're going to talk about some special product. They're going to write in the Washington Post an article on this great thing that probably will be sold and backstocked in Amazon to make a fortune off of. I mean, that's just an idea. Like, that's just a circumstance that came up. But, you know, it's really frightening, actually.
And now they're getting us to eat crickets like that. They're subliminally,
maybe even people like in Soylent Green. And the people are so programmed and brainwashed by their Twitter and their Facebook and their iPhone. They're programmed to believe the exact same thing as everybody else, all because the TV or their phone told them to.
They're making cricket bars. Clyde Lewis ate a cricket bar on air.
Well, he'll eat anything.
On air!
My goodness, I love Clyde Lewis.
Yeah, I love him.
You didn't hear him eat the cricket bar the other night? I was going to throw up. He was kind of sick too, but...
Talk about being a shock jock.
Yeah, but you know what? You probably can't even taste it.
Yeah, they say
if it's chocolate. Anything chocolate covered tastes amazing. I mean, they dip in Oreos and all kinds of strange things.
What's next? Cockroach milk? I mean, where are they going in the future? I thought the future's supposed to be flying cars, not eating insects. I mean, this is preposterous.
You should see the cockroaches they have in Texas. They fly and they're huge.
You should see them here in Arizona. That. They're mutated too. I don't know what they're giving them the same thing they gave the Ninja Turtles.
Where in Texas? Because we saw some flying weird stuff in El Paso.
Oh yeah,
really? It was in northern Texas in the Panhandle area where all the Bible belts are. You couldn't even there was no bar anywhere near. You had to go 30 miles to get to a bar.
That's good. Bars stink.
It was weird when I moved back to Los Angeles because I was raised in Malibu and I went back to Los Angeles. My family moved back, and I remember there's a line of bars. Oh my God, there's bars everywhere. This whole Hollywood's all bars.
Wow,
and McDonald's and 7-Elevens.
That's different.
LA. Sounds like LA.
From the Bible Belt to LA, Malibu. And that's funny. I mean,
I know. It was so funny. But, I spent a lot of time. I was young, so we went and had a lot of fun up on Sunset Boulevard. And I never seen an IHOP like that after all the bars closed. Because in New York, they can go to 4, but in LA, it's 2. And everybody would go to this IHOP on Santa Monica Boulevard. And it was the rock and roll IHOP. So it was like, wow, this is a different IHOP than I'm used to.
I
felt like I was on Mars, because even though like I was there when I was younger, I was a child, and we lived over, North Malibu, and I was still kind of sheltered. I didn't see anything like that. So yeah, that was. Oh, we're time's up, guys. You guys can come back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and tune in next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the shingles virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself,